The liberal media devoting 95% of their coverage to smearing the teenagers who they claim confronted a Native American veteran during the March for Life.
But later, as we now know, more video emerged showing that the teenagers were actually just standing there when they were approached by the Native Americans. As for the actual March for Life, well, the media covered it for less than a minute. Media Research Center Managing Editor Brittany Hughes joins us now to react. Good morning, Brittany. This really was a big screw-up by a lot of members of the media for basically just condemning these kids right off the bat without really knowing the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, everybody, no matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, everybody should agree that it's a shame that these kids found themselves the latest to be victimized, not only by social media, which we've seen can be incredibly dangerous with the mobs that it can whip up in a short amount of time, but a news media that seems to have forgotten the difference between a press badge and an activist sign and is finding it increasingly impossible to simply do their job. This isn't simply that, the media spat out this video for a couple of minutes on Saturday and said, here, there's this, it's going viral, make of it what you will. No, they didn't. They devoted tons and tons of airtime to this story. In fact, they spent 19 times more airtime on this story than they did covering the entire rest of the March for Life, to which tens of thousands of people show up. CNN and MSNBC alone spent a combined 53 minutes of coverage on this story, which is a lifetime in TV world. And by the end of it, without being able to defend themselves or offer a rebuttal, these kids had become the poster children for white male privilege and racial and religious bigotry. I mean, it was absolutely horrible how they were smeared. And again, I think that this is indicative of a media that no longer objectively reports things, right, but puts their own spin on it and tries to make it into this agenda.
Brittany, let me ask you something. If it weren't for that red Make America Great Again hat, would this have received a single second of coverage, do you think?
No, I don't think so at all. If it would, it would be minuscule at best. Again, if these kids had been wearing Antifa masks, I don't think that you would see this kind of devotion to this story. This was very clear that these kids, all they did was be in the wrong place at the wrong time, waiting on a bus. They showed up to a pro-life march which the media hates already and doesn't even cover. And they ended up being the face of something that the media and the left have already decided on, and that is, if you wear this hat, if you're white, if you're male especially, then you must be a racist, you must be a bigot, and this fit in perfectly with their narrative. Now, of course, they ended up with egg all over their faces when other video came out, but, I think the question here is, at what point are there consequences for a media that doesn't do its job, that doesn't look into the facts, that immediately runs with a narrative? I know a lot of talking heads and pundits have apologized for jumping the gun, but these kids are getting death threats, they're getting harassed online, they're having to go to school today with a police presence because of protesters because of these reports.
Well, this will really dramatically change their lives, and they will have to live with this for a long time because their faces are very familiar, especially Sandman, the kid that's right there on the left. And when you look at his explanation, it's crazy how it changes everything, because when you initially watch this video and you hear that initial narrative of, he's taunting this guy, I mean, he looks, cruel, and he looks mean, and he looks like he's just basically making fun of him. But then you hear that they were approached, that they were sitting there, and there's a camera on him, and he basically just said, listen, I was just trying to show him that I'm not going to be intimidated, that I'm not going to back down, and I was just smiling to say, you can't just come up to me and do this. He was defending himself, and it changes everything.
It does. This whole thing was spun wildly out of control, again, by a media that's not interested in the facts. They're interested in a narrative. This is a group of 16, 17-year-old kids who were in a city that's unfamiliar to them, who found themselves in between two groups of adult protesters. You can see very clearly in the extended cuts of this video that this Native American man walked up to them and got in their faces. These kids didn't ask for this, and unfortunately, they're in the middle of it now.
Yeah, it really is something else. Thank you so much, Brittany.
A lot more to come on this, I'm sure. Yeah. Thank you.